I want to bring in South Carolina Congresswoman and Transportation and Infrastructure Committee member Nancy Mace. It's good morning to you. And first off, your reaction to the news, maybe you already knew it before it was released this morning, that looks like we might have an actual bipartisan deal on infrastructure.
Well, it'd be great if we did have a bipartisan deal. The last time that I checked, when the White House said we did have one, they backtracked on it for several days after. I think that if we're going to have one, you'll see it in the next few weeks. I would love nothing more than that. But the big question is for me this morning is how are we going to pay for it? Because some of the reports out there say that this proposal would pay for itself. And that's just not the case right now. So I will be doing a little more research and seeing where they are with how it will be paid for. That's the biggest concern, because we don't want to see tax hikes paying for art or sculptures or landscaping in an infrastructure deal. I can tell you that much.
But at least we're back off of $2 and $3 trillion talk. At least we're down to under $1 trillion. I can't believe I'm saying that, but truth be told,
it's still huge. I mean, right. Even at just under $1 trillion, it'd still be one of the largest infrastructure packages in our nation's history. And it's important that we recognize the Senate has done a really good job. And I want to recognize Senator Shelley Capote from West Virginia and her work to get us to where we are today. And it's great to see that there are Republican and Democrat voices that are coming together. Infrastructure was the #1 committee I wanted to be on. I knew that, hey, if we could work together, certainly we could work together for roads and bridges. It's taken a long time. I think it's promising, but my biggest question is how are we going to pay for it?
And as long as the money goes to roads and bridges, and that's been the biggest problem. I want to bring in Patrice Onwuka into this. Go ahead, Patrice.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I know Congresswoman Mace, you recently had an incident at your home where, potentially some pro-union, pro-act thugs really try to vandalize your home. And I covered it for our sister organization, IWV. And I just want to find out, what is the status of, your ability to carry a weapon in Washington, D.C.? I know some of the local leadership, oppose that idea. How are you protecting yourself, and what message are you sending to women out there who they themselves, whether from political foes or whatever, face that same kind of personal security threat?
Well, I can say this much. At the end of 2020, I got my concealed carry permit for South Carolina based on the threats that I was receiving on my life. And it wasn't until this vandalism incident in my home where I decided, okay, now is the time for me to actually use my concealed carry permit. And so for me, wherever I go in South Carolina and I'm allowed to carry, I have a firearm on my person, always carrying. And I have to tell you, as a mom, as a single mom, it's one of the most empowering things I have done. I've also had an opportunity to teach my kids about gun safety. I think that's really important, so they're not afraid. They know how to handle a firearm if they ever are near one. I think those things are really extremely important. I am in the process of getting my concealed carry permit for DC. I want to make sure I follow all the laws, but I'm not going to be put in a position where I can't defend myself. And we've seen political violence increasing over the last year to year and a half, and I want to make sure that I can defend myself, my family, and my values and the things that I believe in.
Are you getting pushback, though, from some of your colleagues as far as concealed carry? Because I know that that's been a big topic of discussion on the floor of the House, that some of these Congress people, yourself included, are saying, I want to protect myself after what we saw on January 6th. I mean, what kind of reactions are you getting from your colleagues?
Right. Well, it's interesting. The one place where we might have needed a firearm on January 6th was actually in the chamber, the one place where we're not allowed to carry when we're on Capitol Hill. I want, for me personally, I'm going to follow the laws of the district and the Capitol in Washington, D.C. I want to make sure that, #1, I'm following all the laws. I do believe it's important, particularly for public figures and political officials. It doesn't matter if you're Republican or Democrat. Many of us who are strong voices and outspoken on the things that we believe in, we get a lot of death threats, and we ought to be able to defend ourselves and protect ourselves wherever we go. And I think that's a really important distinction. And it's important that, one, if you're going to have a firearm, you're trained on it and you know how to use it, but also that we follow the laws, and we should be able to carry wherever we go, quite frankly.
So what was your reaction last week when the president came out and said that basically all the crime surge that we've seen across the country was about guns? I mean, I'm just reminding myself here that somebody has to be holding the gun like a criminal.
Right.
But what did you make when the president said that?
Here's the thing. In the Biden administration, because of the increase in violence, I believe you're going to see a big push for gun control in this country. But let's face it, law-abiding citizens don't break the law. Criminals do. And so we're going to be doing these gun control measures for people who are already following the law. Over the last year and a half, we've seen with mental health cases have increased dramatically in our youth and people that didn't have jobs. I mean, we've had an enormous pressures put on us and individuals across the country because of COVID-19 the last year and a half. And we've got to make sure that whatever laws we are pursuing, they make sense. So, for example, Congressman Tom Rice and I sponsored legislation earlier this year. Did you know that when you have a background check and you're flagged for it, the FBI, when they're doing additional research, they're only allowed to use a fax machine between the federal and local and state agencies when they're doing that additional background work? Like, I don't own a fax machine. I don't know anybody that does. So just some common sense reforms might go a long way here.
That's unbelievable. I'm really sorry about your house, by the way. And I'm
Right.
sorry that you've been threatened so much. And I know that's part of the job, but it's a sad part of the job that you have to do. Congresswoman Nancy Mace, thank you very much for being here.